Have you ever had one of those days or maybe weeks or gosh, even years where you feel like you're just sort of going through the motions? You know, you're here, you're breathing, doing stuff, but are you truly alive? Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that might hit closer to home than you think. It's this pervasive feeling of just existing versus actually truly. And we're going to challenge you to ask yourself, are you maybe running on existential autopilot? We want to cut through the noise, give you a way to understand this really profound idea, and maybe more importantly, how to shift gears, how to break.
Yeah, our mission today is really to take some fantastic insights, particularly from a YouTube transcript from success chasers, and weave them together with the wisdom of some really influential thinkers, you know, people like Sartre, Nietzsche, Camus, Frankl. The goal is to give you both the clarity to maybe see this pattern in your own life and hopefully the courage to step out of that comfort zone and reclaim, you know, the intentionality of your life.
So by the end of this deep dive, the idea is you won't just get why it's so vital to wake up from this autopilot mode. You'll hopefully walk away with some practical insights into how to do it, how to turn what might feel like just passive breathing into really deliberate, intentional living. Let's jump in. We've all felt it, haven't we? That weird feeling of time just slipping away. You wake up, you do the same routines, work, maybe socialize a bit, zone out with TV, sleep, repeat. Does that sound familiar? That feeling of, is this it? I know I've definitely been there.
That feeling you're describing, that sort of vague sense that something's missing, that's often the first little sign of what we're calling existential autopilot. Yeah. It's this quiet, pervasive state where you're moving through life, sure, but your decisions aren't really yours. They're more like automatic reactions, maybe to external expectations or just old habits you kind of settle into, like maybe choosing a career because it seemed practical, not because it actually lit you up inside.
Or staying in relationships just because it's comfortable, right? Yeah. Not because it's vibrant and connecting.
Exactly. Or even something as simple as endlessly scrolling on your phone. Not really for enjoyment, but just to fill the silence.
And the cost of living like that, it's subtle at first, isn't it? But it chips away. It's like the slow erosion of your identity, your creativity, maybe even your happiness. Days, weeks, years just blur.
And suddenly you're asking, where did the time go?
Yeah. It feels comfortable initially. I get that. That illusion of safety, the predictable pattern. It seems like it protects you from chaos, but you're saying underneath that comfort, there's something else.
Often, yes. Beneath that surface comfort, there's usually a deeper nagging anxiety, that deeper anxiety. Philosophers actually have a term for it, existential dread. And it's not just everyday worry. It's this profound awareness of how short life is, how fragile it all is. And for thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Friedrich Nietzsche, Albert Camus, facing that dread wasn't something to run from. They actually saw it as the key to liberation. They argued that acknowledging life's brevity, it isn't paralyzing. It's actually a powerful push towards living intentionally, authentically.
That sounds incredibly heavy, though, facing that kind of dread. How do people usually react? Do they lean in or do they, try to numb it out, which maybe just keeps the autopilot going?
That's a really crucial point.
Yeah.
Because the fear is natural. And yes, many people do try to numb it consciously or, unconsciously. They distract themselves, keep busy, seek external validation, anything to avoid that unsettling awareness. But the philosophers we're talking about saw that avoidance as the very trap, the thing that keeps us stuck in inauthenticity. It's about recognizing the fear, feeling it, sure, but then choosing to act despite it.
And it's important to say, right, that living on autopilot isn't about being lazy or unproductive. You could be incredibly busy. Your calendar could be packed, always doing things.
Absolutely, constantly doing. But the core issue is not truly being. There's a lack of presence, a lack of real intention, no genuine engagement with your own life.
So you're moving, but not really going anywhere that matters to you.
Precisely. And that has a real psychological cost. It creeps up on you. A sense of dissatisfaction, like something's fundamentally off. Anxiety starts to build. Maybe not panic attacks, but like a low, constant hum.
That discomfort of being misaligned with yourself.
Exactly, that misalignment. You start questioning your purpose, your identity, asking what's the point. Regret starts whispering. And this kind of crisis, it isn't about age. It can hit anyone, anytime they have that realization that they've been sort of asleep at the wheel, living a life they don't quite recognize as their own. And this is where existentialism comes in, not as some depressing, gloomy philosophy, but actually as a radical wake-up call. Its core belief is that human existence is defined by our freedom. Not just, political freedom, but a deeper kind, the freedom to choose what your life means.
Which brings us to Sartre's big idea, right? Existence precedes essence, which basically means you aren't born with a purpose already stamped on. You exist first. And then it's up to you to define who you are through your actions, your choice.
Exactly. You exist first, then you create your essence. You're not a passenger in your life. You're the one driving.
But wow, that's a lot of responsibility, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And it's fascinating how many of us instinctively shy away from that level of responsibility.
Yeah.
It's almost like we don't want that much freedom. So we kind of hide in routines, in social roles, in distractions, anything to avoid confronting that raw freedom of shaping our own life. That's the burden of freedom, and it's precisely why autopilot can feel so deceptively safe.
Heidegger talked about this too, didn't he? That idea of falling into the self ladder, where you just become one of the crowd, doing what they do, thinking what they think.
You stop being you and start being this sort of vague echo of everyone else.
Yeah.
Existing inauthentically, as he put it, disconnected from your own unique potential.
And then there's Camus with his idea of absurdity.
Right. Camus saw the human condition as inherently absurd. We're meaning-seeking creatures in a universe that doesn't just hand us meaning on a platter. But, and this is key, he argued, this realization doesn't have to lead to despair. It can actually be freeing. He famously wrote something like, "The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion."
Wow. So living intentionally on your own terms, that's rebellion.
In a way, yes. It's resistance against the drift, against conformity, against meaningless.
Okay, so we have this incredible freedom, but also this discomfort that comes with it. What do we actually do with this knowledge? Existentialism doesn't seem to offer a simple checklist for happiness.
No. It definitely doesn't. Instead, it demands that you decide. It forces you to face that uncomfortable, maybe even scary question. What do I want my life to mean? It challenges you to stop drifting, grab the wheel, and start choosing deliberately, even if those choices feel difficult or unconventional or risky.
And maybe those feelings we try to avoid, the numbness, the anxiety, the regret, maybe they're actually important signals.
Often, yes. That discomfort can be the very thing that pushes us into awareness. It's a sign something's off, that we've lost our way. Sometimes the breakdown really is the beginning of the breakthrough. So if you're feeling stuck or detached, that feeling isn't the end. It might actually be a sign you're starting to wake up, the first crack, letting light in for a new, more meaningful life to begin.
Sartre's phrase, "man is condemned to be free," always struck me. It sounds like a paradox.
It does, but it points to a deeper truth. You're condemned to freedom because you can't escape it. There's no opting out. Even doing nothing, even refusing to choose that is a choice. You can't escape responsibility for your life.
You can only delay it.
Exactly. And usually, delaying it comes at the cost of your peace, your authenticity, your potential. You always have the ability to choose, even when the choices are incredibly hard.
And we give up that agency, that power to choose, so often without even noticing, right?
All the time. We take jobs we dislike because, well, we feel we have to. We stay in relationships that drain us because starting over seems too daunting. We bury dreams because they don't seem realistic. And every time we do that, we're essentially trading our freedom for a feeling of comfort or certainty.
Yeah.
But it's a trade that slowly erodes our sense of self.
But here's the flip side, right? The empowering part. That same realization that nobody's coming to rescue you. There's no manual that also means you are completely, utterly free to rewrite your own story. You don't need permission. You don't have to follow someone else's script for success. You can wake up tomorrow and decide to choose differently. You can realign your actions with what you actually value. You can stop sleepwalking.
And that transformation has to come from within. It starts the moment you decide to take full ownership. No more excuses, no more blaming, just ownership.
Which brings us back to that anxiety, existential anxiety.
Yes. And instead of seeing it as a flaw, something to get rid of, existentialists see it as a vital signal, like an internal alarm bell. It goes off when we sense the weight of our freedom or when the life we're living just doesn't match who we feel we truly are deep down.
So it's like friction between who you are now and who you could be.
Exactly, that friction. And it's productive friction. It can push us to ask much better questions like, am I living in line with my core values? Am I making choices that genuinely matter?
So Sartre and these other thinkers, they weren't trying to shame us.
Not at all. It's more like an invitation. An invitation to start living on purpose, to stop blaming circumstances or other people, and realize that right here, right now, no matter what's happened before, you can start taking responsibility for your values, your relationships, your habits, your beliefs. That's existentialism in action. That's taking the wheel.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are some concrete signs that someone might be on this autopilot? One thing you mentioned is that quiet suffering or numbness. Like you're functioning, doing the things you're supposed to do, but inside it feels like you're not really there. Conversations feel kind of shallow, days blur together.
Yeah, just going through the motions without feeling truly connected. And it often shows up in those little mental disconnections too. Think about it, walking into a room and completely forgetting why you went in there.
Happens all the time.
Right. Or finishing a meal and realizing you barely tasted it, or driving somewhere familiar and having almost no memory of the actual journey.
Total zone out.
Exactly. These aren't just minor lapses. They can be signs of a deeper detachment. You're physically present, but mentally, emotionally, you're checked out, often escaping, not engaging. And that detachment can spread, making you lose touch with the richness of the present moment.
Another big one seems to be how you treat your dreams, those things you really want to do. When you're stuck in that passive mode, the dreams, starting that creative project, changing careers, traveling, they get put on the back burner.
Always someday, waiting for the perfect moment.
Which never actually arrives, does it?
Rarely.
Yeah.
And each time you push a dream aside, it feels like a little piece of you just fades away.
And we often fill that space, that quiet, with distractions.
Yeah, absolutely. Distractions are a huge mask. The endless scrolling on social media, binge-watching shows, it becomes like an anesthetic.
We've all been there, fallen down that rabbit hole.
For sure. And often you're not even consuming it because you love it. You're doing it because it's easier than facing the silence, your own silence. But that silence, that's often where your own truth is waiting.
Sometimes it manifests as emotional numbness too, right? Things that used to excite don't anymore.
Yeah. The highs aren't as high, the lows aren't as low. Less laughter, maybe muted sadness. It's like there's this kind of gray filter over everything.
And you might tell yourself, oh, I'm just tired, or it's just stress.
Right. Rationalizations, which leads to another key indicator, the self-talk. Pay attention to how you justify your choices. Do you hear yourself saying things like, well, it's not that bad, or at least I have a job, or the classic, everyone else is doing it?
Oh, yeah. Those are classic autopilot scripts.
They really are. They're mental shortcuts that keep you small, keep you compliant, keep you comfortable. They have just enough truth to feel plausible, but they can't ultimately silence that deeper craving for purpose, for depth, for freedom.
So a good exercise might be to really look at how you spend your time. Are your days filled with intentional actions, things you choose, or is it mostly just tasks that drain? Do you end the day feeling fulfilled or just relieved it's over?
You're creating something or mostly just consuming what others have made?
Because autopilot thrives on reactivity, right? Just following a pattern someone else handed you, not one you consciously designed.
Exactly. So this leads to some maybe uncomfortable, but really necessary questions to ask yourself honestly. When was the last time you felt truly, vibrantly alive? When did you last take a risk for something that genuinely mattered to you? When did you say no to the easy thing and yes to the meaningful thing, even if it was harder?
Are you proud of how you're spending your days, really? What are you avoiding by staying so busy?
These questions.
Yeah.
They can be tough. They're meant to peel back the layers, get past the distractions, and show you what's really underneath, your raw, unfiltered self. And that confrontation, even if it feels scary, that's the crucial first step toward making a change.
And if you're listening and thinking, oh, okay, I recognize this, but I don't know how to live differently, that's totally okay.
It really is. You don't need all the answers right now. What matters is starting to pay attention again, stopping the pretending that everything's fine when it isn't, getting curious about your own life.
Because awareness, that's the start. That's what allows you to begin breaking those old patterns and taking back control. One conscious choice at a time, trading that numbness for real presence.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how most of us live as if we have endless time. We put off dreams, delay important conversations.
We act like we're immortal, basically, even though logically we know tomorrow isn't guaranteed for any of us.
Which brings us to that powerful Stoic idea, memento mori.
Remember that you must die. Sounds grim, but it's not meant to be, is it?
Not at all. It wasn't about being morbid. It was a tool, a profound call to wake up, a reminder to live each day fully, with intention, precisely because it could be your last.
Seneca put it brilliantly, didn't he? Something like, you act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire.
Exactly. We worry about trivial things, everyday fears, but we plan our big desires as if death doesn't apply to us. Really letting the awareness of death sink in, not constantly, but as a background reality, can fundamentally shift how you live.
Try this visualization. Imagine waking up tomorrow knowing, with certainty, it was your last day. Would you really waste energy on petty arguments? Spend hours mindlessly scrolling? Put off calling that person one more time?
Or would you show up differently? With urgency, with presence? With gratitude?
Probably the latter.
Probably. And Heidegger, another philosopher we mentioned, he also saw this awareness of death as crucial for authentic living. His concept of being toward death isn't about dwelling on the end. It's about living now with the full awareness of your finitude. He argued that avoiding this awareness, pretending we have forever, that's what leads to inauthenticity. Confronting mortality changes things. It pushes us toward real questions, real actions.
That idea of being toward death, it sounds intense, but facing mortality is genuinely terrifying for a lot of people. How do you bridge that gap from the fear to actually living differently, more authentically?
You're absolutely right. The fear is natural. It's human. But Heidegger would say the avoidance of that fear is what traps us. The bridge isn't one giant leap. It's built through small, intentional acts, day by day. When you live with death, not as a morbid obsession, but as a quiet reminder of life's preciousness, you're just more likely to speak honestly, to act with courage, to love more deeply, to stop wasting time on things that, in the grand scheme, just don't matter.
So it's not about dwelling on death, but using its inevitability to sharpen your focus on life.
Precisely. You don't need to panic, but you do need to start acting like your time is finite, because it is. Start small. Pay attention. Notice where you go numb, where you procrastinate on things that matter. Be honest about the dreams you've shelved for someday.
Maybe call that person you've lost touch with. Tell the truth, even if it's hard.
Yes. It's not about living in fear. It's about living with clarity.
Like Camus and his Sisyphus myth, even knowing the rock will roll back down.
We must imagine Sisyphus happy, even in a universe that doesn't offer guaranteed meaning or immortality. We can still choose to live beautifully, defiant, meaningfully. Death isn't the end of the conversation about life, it's the beginning. It's the ultimate mirror, reflecting your life back at you and asking that profound question, is this truly the life you want?
Let's talk about conformity. There's a strange kind of safety in just doing what everyone else does, right? If you follow the rules, stick to the script, blend in, don't rock the boat, life often seems smoother, on the surface anyway.
Less judgment, less standing out.
But underneath that comfort, there's often this quiet despair brewing, this feeling that maybe you've traded your real self for a mask. That's the crisis of conformity, isn't it?
It really is. And Søren Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, he warned strongly against this. He believed the greatest danger wasn't failure, but losing yourself in the crowd. He famously said, the crowd is untruth. Meaning, when you base your life on what the collective expects, you start to abandon your own personal responsibility to become a unique individual. You outsource your decisions. Exactly. You let public opinion or tradition or just what people do make your choices for you. Little compromises, quiet ones that slowly dull the soul. You forget who you even are, separate from the crowd. Authenticity, for Kierkegaard, required standing alone sometime, facing that anxiety of not quite belonging.
Why do people do that, though? Outsource those big life decisions? Is it just easier, or is there a deeper fear there, a fear of standing out?
I think it's a bit of both. It's definitely easier in many ways. Less friction, less risk of criticism or rejection. But there's also, I think, a deep-seated fear, a fear of being the outsider, of being judged. Authenticity can feel like stepping onto a bare stage with no script, and for many, that's frankly terrifying.
Nietzsche took this idea even further, didn't he, with his concept of herd animals?
He did. He believed most people simply go along, obeying norms without really thinking or questioning. His idea of the Übermensch, which is often misunderstood.
Yeah, people think it means like a literal Superman or something.
Right, but it's really more about an ideal. An individual who stops inheriting values and starts creating their own. Someone who becomes the author of their own life, their own meaning. It's about radical self-creation, not just being selfish.
He thought blindly following customs turns people into shadows.
Pretty much. Shadows of themselves. They obey, they conform, but they don't truly live. They miss the whole point of being human, which for Nietzsche included the power to choose, to question, to grow, to create meaning from within. He really admired those who chose their own truth over comfort, even if it meant suffering. Because suffering, for him, wasn't just negative. It was the crucible where the self is forged.
Okay, so living authentically isn't just about rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's more about alignment.
Precisely. It's about getting brutally honest with yourself. Ask, what do I truly believe? What do I actually value? Forget what I'm supposed to want. What kind of life do I genuinely want to live?
And then actually living according to those answers, even if the world doesn't approve.
Exactly. And it's not a one-time decision. It's a lifelong process. You have to keep choosing authenticity over and over. You have to catch yourself when you slip back into old habits that aren't really yours. You have to question the narratives about success or happiness that you've just absorbed without thinking.
The world will constantly try to pull you back into line, won't it?
It will. Conformity is the path of least resistance, but the life you're truly meant to live, the one that feels like yours, that doesn't come from a pre-written script. It has to be written from scratch by you.
And the reward for all this difficult work. You mentioned freedom.
Yes, freedom. Not just the superficial freedom of breaking rules, but that deeper, more profound freedom. The freedom that comes from knowing you're not faking it anymore. You're not performing for an audience. You stop living for applause and start living from your core. And that, in today's world, is a truly radical act.
It might mean less external validation, maybe less money, maybe being misunderstood by some people.
It might, but the trade-off is a life that finally feels like your own, genuinely yours.
So the question for you listening is, how much of your life right now is truly yours? Are your choices driven by a desire for approval or a commitment to your own truth?
Don't wait for permission to be yourself. Authenticity can definitely be uncomfortable sometimes, maybe even lonely. But as someone once said, it's never empty.
So if there's a voice inside you, that quiet whisper you've been ignoring, maybe it's time to listen. If there's a version of you that you buried long ago to fit in, it's time to start digging. You've been playing a role for so long, you've forgotten who you were before the act. Go find that person again. Not for anyone else. You. Because your life, your one precious life, deserves to be lived full, honest, unapologetic. We have this cultural idea, don't we, that happiness comes from ease. From the absence of struggle. If we can just eliminate stress, get rid of problems, reach some kind of pain-free zone, then we'll be happy.
That's the common narrative.
But what if that whole idea is fundamentally flawed? What if it's not comfort that gives life meaning? What if it's actually struggle? But not just any struggle. Purposeful, chosen, meaningful struggle.
It makes sense when you think about it. Look back at the most important, most shaping chapters of your own life. Were they the easy ones?
Probably not.
Right. They were likely the times you had to fight through something, the times that tested you, stretched you, forced you to grow in ways you didn't expect. Was any truly transformative period effortless? I doubt it.
This really gets to the heart of Viktor Frankl's work, doesn't it? Logotherapy.
Absolutely. Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, observed something profound. He believed the primary human drive isn't pleasure, like Freud thought, or power, like Adler thought, but meaning. He noticed that even in the horrific conditions of Auschwitz, the people who tended to survive often had something to live for, a person they hoped to see again, unfinished work, a vision for the future, a reason to endure the suffering.
So how do we tell the difference between meaningful struggle and just pointless suffering? Because struggle can definitely be pointless.
That's the crucial distinction. Meaningful struggle is struggle in service of something you value. It brings you closer to your potential, helps you build something that matters, connects you more deeply, maybe helps you heal. Meaningless struggle, on the other hand, just keeps you stuck, running in circles, like hating your job but staying just for the paycheck year after year, or staying in toxic relationships out of fear of being alone, or constantly pretending to be someone you're not to fit in.
And the really tragic thing is people often choose those meaningless struggles, don't they? Because they feel safer somehow, more familiar, more predictable.
Exact. But that perceived safety comes at a huge cost. The cost of your vitality, your creativity, your sense of purpose. It drains you without building anything real.
Frankl believed that responsibility was the key to me, right?
Yes, he famously called our ability to choose our attitude, our response, to even the most difficult circumstances, the last of the human freedoms. We can't always choose what happens to us, but we could always choose how we respond. And taking responsibility for that response, that's where meaning starts. A pretty radical idea in a culture obsessed with avoiding pain at all costs.
So what if we consciously flipped the script? Instead of asking, how can I avoid struggle? What if we started asking, what struggle is worth it for me?
What struggle aligns with my values? What difficulty am I willing to embrace in pursuit of something meaningful?
What if we started chasing meaning instead of just chasing comfort?
Now, this doesn't mean seeking out hardship for its own sake. That's masochism, not meaning. But it does mean not being automatically afraid of the hard path if you know deep down it leads somewhere important, somewhere real.
Like pursuing a creative life, even though it's uncertain. Or building truly meaningful relationships, which takes effort and vulnerability. Or just the struggle of becoming the person you feel you're meant to be.
And we can reframe that difficulty, not as pointless suffering, but as growing pains. There's a certain dignity, a power, in choosing the difficult road when it aligns with your deepest values.
And when you make that mental shift from avoiding pain to embracing meaningful challenges, everything starts to look different.
It really does. Obstacles aren't just roadblocks anymore. They become invitations to grow. Fear doesn't just mean stop. It can signal that you're on the edge of something important, something that matters.
You stop asking, how can I make my life easier? And start asking, how can I make my life richer, more meaningful?
And it's so important to remember, pleasure is not the same as meaning. A life completely without friction is often a life without momentum. You can coast along comfortably for a while, maybe even a long while. But eventually that creeping emptiness tends to set in, because deep down we know we were made for more than just comfort.
We were made to grow, to contribute, to create, to connect, to love.
Exactly. And all of those things require effort. They involve struggle, but they give back so much more in terms of meaning and fulfillment than a life of pure ease ever could.
So maybe take a moment, you listening right now, to think about your current struggle. Which ones feel like they're building something worthwhile? Which ones just feel like they're draining you, keeping you stuck?
Be really honest with yourself. And then maybe start thinking about how you can shift your energy, even just a little bit, toward the struggles that actually move you forward, towards meaning.
You don't have to become some kind of hero overnight. It's just about being willing to choose the meaningful fight, to take responsibility, to maybe even suffer, but suffer for the right reasons, your reasons.
Because when you take responsibility for your struggle, when you choose it consciously because it aligns with your values, it transforms. It stops being just pain and starts becoming part of your story, a story you can actually be proud of. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start feeling like an active participant in your own life. And that right there is where meaning truly lives, not in avoiding the storm, but in learning how to dance through it with purpose. Okay, so understanding all this, the autopilot, the existential ideas, it's powerful. But just understanding it doesn't automatically change your life.
Right.
Awareness is the spark, but action is really the fire.
Yeah, knowing isn't doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Breaking free from autopilot means actually living differently, not just thinking differently.
Yeah.
And the key usually is to start small, consistent small steps. They really do add up to big changes over time.
So what are some practical tools? One you mentioned earlier, which I really like, is existential journaling. But not just writing down what you did today, more like asking deeper questions.
Precisely. It doesn't have to be long, maybe just 5 or 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Ask yourself things like, if today were my last day, what would I want to remember? What would I regret? Or did my actions today align with what I truly value? Or even just, where did I feel most alive today? Where did I feel numb?
And doing that regularly, it sharpens your awareness, helps you see the patterns.
It really does.
Yeah.
That consistent questioning gradually pulls the truth out. You start to see more clearly where you're acting out of fear or habit versus where you're genuinely living with intention. These small realizations build on each other. It creates this deep internal shift, helping you treat each day more like a conscious choice, less like just an obligation you have to get through.
Another thing you can do almost immediately is intentional routine disrupt. It doesn't have to be massive, small things, like wake up 10 minutes earlier and just sit in silence instead of grabbing your phone right away.
Or take a different route to work. Try a food you've never eaten. Strike up a brief conversation with someone new. Turn off your phone completely for an hour in the evening.
These seem like tiny things, almost silly.
They might seem small, yeah, but they deliberately break the pattern. They interrupt the predictability of autopilot. They wake up your mind just a little bit and remind you, all right, I have agency. I can choose differently.
You can take that a step further, too, with what you called mindful existential reminders.
These are just tiny moments you sprinkle throughout your day to consciously pause and acknowledge, I am alive. I am here right now. This moment will never come again. It could be as simple as taking one deep conscious breath before you open your email, or finding a moment of stillness before you speak in a meeting, or even just whispering to yourself, this is not forever, when you're feeling frustrated or overwhelmed.
Like little anchors pulling you back to the present.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because your real life is happening now, in the present, not lost in worries about the future or regrets about the past.
And related to that, maybe meditating specifically on impermanence.
Yes, that can be incredibly powerful. Again, not in a morbid way, but in a clear-eyed, appreciative way. Reflecting on the fact that everything, your youth, your relationships, this current challenge, this pleasant moment, everything is temporary. It's all constantly changing.
That doesn't sound very comforting.
It might not sound comforting at first, but its purpose isn't necessarily comfort. It's clarity. It's meant to heighten your appreciation for what you do have right now. When you truly grasp that nothing lasts forever, you stop taking things for granted. You stop sleepwalking through your days. You start to value even the seemingly mundane moments more deeply.
But the hardest part of all this, it isn't starting, is it? It's keeping it going consistently.
Oh, absolutely. That's the real challenge. Meaningful change is almost always slow. It rarely happens in one big lightning bolt moment of insight. It happens through the quiet accumulation of these small, consistent acts, day after day. And patience here isn't passive waiting. It's active. It's the discipline to keep showing up, keep making those small choices, even when it feels like nothing dramatic is happening.
Like planting seeds, you don't see the growth immediately.
Exactly. A lot of the change happens beneath the surface first. You have to trust the process.
And then one day, maybe without even pinpointing when it happened, you just wake up and feel different.
Not necessarily because your external circumstances have radically changed overnight, but because you have changed. Because you are finally in your life, fully present, more courageous, more alive.
You're no longer just a bystander watching it go by.
Right. You're participating. And that's what snapping out of autopilot truly means. It's not a one-time fix. It's a continuous choice. The choice to keep waking yourself up, even when it's hard, even when it feels boring sometimes, even when you're tired. You choose to show up for your life because it's the only one you've got. And it deserves your attention, your presence, your engagement, your love.
So maybe the invitation today is just to start. Start somewhere. Write one honest sentence in that journal. Do one small thing differently today. Take one deep breath right now and really feel what it means to be alive in this exact second.
That's all it takes to begin.
And once you begin, just keep going. Slowly, maybe gently, but consistent. That's how you build a life that feels truly worth living. One conscious moment at a time. If there's one core truth that kind of sits beneath everything we've explored in this deep dive, it's probably this. Life is short. Shorter than we think, usually shorter than we want it. And that idea of waiting for the right moment to start living, it's mostly a myth, isn't it?
It really is. The only moment you ever truly have is now, this moment. And that's the essence of so much of this existential wisdom, drawing from Frankl, Nietzsche, Kierkegaard, Sartre, Camus. Despite all the uncertainty, despite the inevitability of suffering sometimes, the fact remains, you are here. You are still breathing.
Yeah.
And you still get to choose. You get to choose what your life means, how you respond, what you value. And that choice, that small space between stimulus and response, that's where all your power truly resides.
The world, society, maybe even people close to you might try to convince you that you're small, that you should stay quiet, follow the prescribed path, play it safe.
The pull towards conformity is strong.
But the truth is, you are far more powerful than you probably think. Not powerful in the sense of controlling everything externally, because you can't, but powerful in your ability to choose how you meet whatever life brings your way, with awareness, with intention, with courage.
That's what existential courage really is. It's not the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite the fear, because something more important is at stake. Living your own authentic life.
Albert Camus had that beautiful quote.
Ah, yes. In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer. Even amidst the struggles, that inner core of strength and choice remains.
So the final thought, maybe the challenge for everyone listening, is this. Don't waste another day. Don't waste another precious breath pretending this isn't your one and only life. Because it is.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Wake up. Choose your life consciously. Live deliberately. Let that be your rebellion, your legacy, your freedom.